it's really strong pollution, and then we can see and smell the air we breathe it with. But it's if we look at that as equivalent of organizational culture, then that would be really quite toxic. But normally it's difficult to recognize, it's difficult to acknowledge. So we need some more attention and more observation to really get into what actually is our culture. How is it? How it feels. If we start today with looking at ISO 31000, what it is as a norm, it's a very helpful guidelines around risk management and one of the most important standards. It gives us the principles, the 8 principles that we will be talking about today. It gives us the framework of risk management, so that includes the structure and how it is done in the organization. And also it gives us the process about how we treat the risks. Today we talk about principles. And here I will need your help. If you could right, these are the principles according to ISO, and I will be basing my presentation based on these principles. We have 8 of them. I think that would be the best, the most helpful for everyone if we just focus on, let's say, 4 of them really in more detail. And for that, I need your answers. If you could type 2 of these numbers into the chat. And Gauri, if I can ask you to help me to fish out the 4 numbers that come up most often, that would be very helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's look what you write. Are there any answers already?
Yes. So it's 157 from Falco.
157. Mm-hmm.
And then 547 from Kamal.
547. Okay.
Yeah, let's see if we're getting more responses. Okay, 784 from
8.
Prakash.
Mm-hmm.
178 from Montun Rayo.
Mm-hmm. So there's
And
already, yeah?
Yeah, there's one more 5678 from Advait.
5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so
And one more 567, but yeah, like since 5 are finished.
yeah, okay. So there is quite a pattern already. Okay, let's go through all of them, but really let's focus on the one integrated. It came up a couple of times. Inclusive, dynamic, quite important really, and that is something that that really needs attention. Best available information. Interesting point here, so we will touch on that. And then human cultural factors, continual improvement. That's very important one, yes. Very good. So that gives me a bit direction. Thank you very much for that. And let's start with integrated. So risk management is a part of just everything, and that is where it's integrated, and it is aligned with strategy. It is aligned with every process. It is part of every decision, and it is inside the decisions. The thing about this integration is quite important because it has to feel like it is a part of everything, right? It doesn't only need to be like this according to the process. It has to be integrated not only formally, but also on the human level, so that it feels like almost natural to enter into risk conversations. Like in the meeting itself, asking the questions in very natural way, not as stopping the discussion and the engagement and motivation of the team, but as enabling the success of this asking what could go wrong? How can we prepare best for that? In my previous organization, we had a very strong governance and structure where risk management was very well integrated into our processes. But the formal integration is only a part of discussion, right? So that very much depends on the leader and on the culture in specific parts of the organization. I have led this organization in continental Europe, and we have seen that the integration and how it was treated was very much dependent on how the leader of this country, region, or department has dealt with these risk conversations. This also, it doesn't have to be using the risk register into every decision, but it is about having these risks from risk register in your mind when talking about risks. So if you can share just also for each other, how often you think your risk register is used in real decisions, and here also type from 1 to 5, just to give each other a feeling, just as a peer knowledge here. And we move now to the next one. We haven't, that wasn't actually raised as important for you. I only say that that actually, it is here about simplicity, about the consistent embedding of the process and the whole risk management in the governance and processes. It doesn't mean complicated. It doesn't even mean that everything has to be there, just the most relevant things. It has to be reliable, and it has to be repeatable. And like, I think everyone understands frustration when an organization is only adding on top of requirements and other requirements to make things more complicated and to make the process a burden for everyone. So let's leave that one here and move to customized. Also not raised, but I think it's important to say that it has to, you cannot take framework of risk management from one organization and just put it as it is on the other, because every organization has its own context, different stakeholders, different main task, competitors, environment, and totally different culture and situation. So it has to be tailored, and it has to be talked about and created in the language that business will understand. That is what I would leave you with, because hiding behind our professional jargon will not make us friends and will not help others to understand the importance of the risk management. Inclusive. We had that a couple of times. Inclusive for me means that we need to include in every decision, we need to include all the right people, all relevant stakeholders, and they have to be involved in decisions, in processes early on. That enables us to have diverse views and perspectives, and it's very much linked to the best available information. Very often the information is in the organization, but it is not really leveraged. It is not really asked for because people are not included. I remember in our organization, we had, I'm sorry. We had an issue with communication from our cybersecurity department. Their newsletters and their emails, all their comms were just so about, telling people what they should be doing, treating people as if people cannot think for themselves. And obviously, the cybersecurity and threat from cyber attacks mostly comes through people and behavior and this clicking of the wrong links, right? But to include people in thinking about cyber risks, it's not enough to tell them. It is about giving them the ownership for the risks that they might bring into their organization, and not by blaming them or by making them anxious about the consequences, but by including them into the conversation. And we have worked together with our cybersecurity team to enable the communication that can and training, communication and training that can help people not only to keep the organization safe, but also learn something for themselves because they are concerned about the cybersecurity also in their private lives. So this is how you get the buy-in and how to you get people involved in the decisions, get people speak up when they feel they need to and they have concerns, and hearing out people from different with different perspectives and views. Okay, dynamic. Are we right? Yes. We had dynamic a couple of times. I think that's one of the important ones for the audience here. The risks change. Everything changes very quickly. And actually, in today's world, the change only accelerates. And we should be able to adapt and evolve as we need to when it comes to risk management. The risk management needs to be continuous and iterative process. It has to adapt to the changes that we have. It is not only, like very often in organization, we adopt risk registers quarterly, right? And it is very often not enough. So what we really need to do is to keep our eyes and ears open and to make sure that what we know, our new knowledge, will influence how we look at risks in every decisions. A story from my organization here that I would like to share is what I have found that some of the leaders of specific countries or departments, they have kept some of the risks green, although we have known that this risk have risen in likelihood or impact, and they haven't changed that in their system. They have kept them green just to avoid escalation, just to see, as good leaders that keep everything under control, that everything is fine in their area of responsibility. But this is not helping, right? It is not helping the organization. It it gives a false feeling that everything is fine, but is it really? So when I have noticed that, I have raised that with our MD in region, and he started to reward early escalation. He started to speak openly about the risk and about how something is changing. And he started to do it in the conversations with his people uh, in the meeting where risks were discussed. So we had these conversations about the changing environment and changing conditions so that people get used to that and they get aware about what is happening. And I think that has helped quite a lot because people started to see that that is something that is wanted. Nobody wants to have just artificial comfort. They want to know what is happening, and they want to know that there is the leader responsible for their departments. They know what is happening, and that gives the executives calm, not the pretending that everything is fine. Good. Now, next one will be best available information. Is maybe not on top of your list, but also quite important, and I like this one very much. It is about having timely, clear, and reliable data. But also, what is very important is information is never complete, right? When it comes to risks, you never know what happens, why, and how. There is always something you don't know, and it's important to acknowledge that. What we do not know. So when you make risk decisions, then you combine data with your judgment based on your experience, based on your information that you have in the moment. And also there's one thing, we very often make assumptions, and these assumptions are shortcuts in our thinking. That's very often leads to problems. Like we had a situation where a team in one country has assumed that they win a very nice and profitable project with a client that we as organization have worked for in many other countries and regions. What they didn't do is they haven't checked the local client entity, and it turned out that it was a joint venture with very heavy financial problems. So at the end, they were not paid the full fee, and that was a decision made according to an assumption, not according to available information. They just did not bother to investigate. The information was there. So if we make decision, we need to be sure that we have the information that is available to us, that can be available. So it's quite important one. Call out the assumptions. The factors that are human and cultural. First of all, I want to say that every one of these principles that we have talked about, that we are talking about, has a human factor. It has to be integrated, means not only in formal way. Customized means not only formal and process-wise. It means that it applies to human, that it has a buy-in from the team that is using that. And also, what is important, we are only human, and that means that we are making mistakes. And the risk management needs to be open for that, to be able to deal with that. It is about making an environment where people can talk, even if they are not sure. If people can share their issues and problems, even if they are anxious, how that will be met by others. So what is really important is to acknowledge that someone has made a mistake, that someone has talked about the concerns, that we have learned and we understand how it functions. The first reaction to bad news, especially by leaders, matter a lot. And I think what I admired most in my organization is that whenever something happened and the project team has brought their failing projects to executives' attention, they were met with genuine concern, curiosity, practical brainstorming, and support. Never with a blame, never finding who was to blame. It was more how we can help, how we can fix it together. And of course, we have looked at lessons learned afterwards, but in the moment, that was what really counted. And that made people speak up earlier, escalate earlier, and ask for help. And that was very much that made this risk management quite strong. So leadership has amazing impact on that. And continual improvement. Ongoing, evolving process, regular monitoring, review, adaptation to raise the efficiency and using the lessons learned. The thing is, we learn from failures, not successes. You cannot learn much from a success, right? And in risk management, success is when nothing happens. So what you can learn from that? Nothing. You learn only when something happened, when a mistake is made, when risk realizes. So what we should be doing, actually, we should be celebrating our failures and our mistakes and any problems that are coming, because we can learn from them, because it is opportunity to learn, to develop, to adapt, and to make ourselves and the organization safer. The thing that here is the most important is how we treat failures. If we celebrate them and look for lessons, then it's something that people will share often and will not be afraid to bring up a thing that has happened. You know, the worst that can happen is when someone makes a mistake and tries to hide it, because no one can learn from that, and it builds on another mistake and another problem. So it has to be iterative process. We plan something, we make it work, then we look how it works, what doesn't work, and then learn from that, analyze the information, and plan better. And just doing the circle all the time, whenever something happens, and being open for mistakes and failures. So here, all the principles linked to our outcomes that are so important for risk culture. That can be used a bit as diagnostic in practical terms. Like if you need accountability and you think your culture, your risk culture lacks accountability, then you can look how to make this risk management more structured and more comprehensive, how you can strengthen the continual improvement, and how you can make it integrated more, both in this formal way and the informal human way also. So this is how you can use the risk culture imperatives and principles to diagnose and to see where you need to improve. And to give you some practical takeaways, yes. I would like to, I just move in these three areas. Before the decision, what we can do in when we are in decision meeting. Decision is made, and very often there is a group of people who is pushing for these new shiny projects. Yes, and they just are so unstoppable, and they want it so badly, and I think that will be an amazing thing for the organization. And this happiness and excitement that stops them from thinking about what can go wrong. And there has to be someone in this meeting who will not kill the joy or stop the meeting and make it a problem, but who will try to enable the success of the project in practical terms and ask the question, how can we prepare best so that we are ready if something goes wrong? What can go wrong? What should we be thinking about now? And that can help a lot in changing the conversation. It has to be really adjusted to the level of conversation. It has to be in the language of the business, and it has to come naturally as support and enabling of company's main task, not stopping it. Because then risk management wouldn't work, right? And we have talked about that when a concern is raised or when a failure is surfaced. It's very important how leadership is reacting on that. You know, blame doesn't help anyone, and it will only make things worse. So what we need is acknowledging the courage that sometimes people must bring to raise issues and offer support, right? So that's very important because how we react to raised concerns, that will foster the risk culture that we want to have. And after something happens, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate that we have opportunity to learn, and let's look without a big process on that or without a big difficult conversations. Let's look what we can learn from that, how we will change in the future, how we will keep that from happening. And with that, this is my last slide. Here, I want to ask you and invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be amazing. And also, I would like to share a free booklet with other practical guidance on the risk culture if you are interested. So I will share this link in the chat too. With that, I can leave the floor for questions and answers. Gauri, can you take it? I will stop sharing now. Gauri, are you there? Please enter your questions in the chat. I can.
Sorry, I was
Yeah, okay.
I was not mute. Okay. Okay,
I can now see
so
the chat and look if who is the risk owner
we
usually.
have this question from Samir saying, who is the risk owner usually?
This is the person who has the risks most within their control. That is very open answer, I know, but the legal answer is it depends on the specific circumstances. So you give the ownership of the risks to the person that can do something about this risk. That's the most important thing. So if this is a risk, a cybersecurity risk, here, very important risk owner is our cybersecurity department, but they can only manage the risks that is connected with our defenses, technical defenses being not enough, right? Not sufficient, not up to date. This is their risk. But there is also a risk that I, as an employee, will click a link without thinking in my weird email, right? And here I am the owner of this risk because if I click the risk, the link, then this is in my control what I can do with this risk, with this link. Does it answer the question? And
Yeah, he or she is responsible to do the mitigation actions. That is also one question that we're having here right
he or
now.
she is responsible to do mitigation actions. First of all, there are many different mitigations actions. I think risk owner is the first person who would be responsible for mitigations, right? Mitigating a risk can be before it happens, before we even accept the risk. We can push it away. We can outsource it by insuring by insurance. We can exclude that altogether by some actions, or we can limit that and make it not so prevalent. This all is mitigation. And then when we have this risk, we can agree on specific actions, what can be done. And these actions can also be, you know, um, directed into, or the ownership for these actions will also depend on who can really make a difference here, who has that under control. Is it all about tone off from the top, isn't it? That's very good question. Maybe not all, but absolutely quite a lot. Because how the leaders behave, what they tolerate, or what activities, what behavior they ignore, that will set the tone. So everyone is impacting a culture in the organization, but what leaders do has much, much more impact than what a student worker would do, because people look up to them. They look what is rewarded and what is accepted, right? So absolutely, leaders have a very big influence on the culture. Most believe
Thank
that
you so much.
yeah.
Yeah, I can like read the question. So most
Yes,
believe that
please.
your team should fix all their risk for them. Okay, that's more like a statement here.
Most
But yeah, if you have any thoughts for it.
should fix all their risk for them. That is very important observation because it is not like this, but it is very common organizational dynamic. So, you know, it is like risk is felt by people like a threat, right? So nobody wants these threats and discomfort. So they push this anxiety and fears, they push them into the risk department. And, you know, like this is where it really is pushed away instead of owning it. And then the life of these risk managers, of legal people or compliance people gets very lonely, isolated, and heavy because we absorb all this fear and anxiety. And it doesn't have to be this way. So this is something that it is
Thanks.
not our fault, and we can do something about that.
Thanks for that answer, Natalia. There's yeah, questions lined up, so I'm gonna move to the next one. How does implementing ISO 31000 benefit an organization in building a strong risk awareness culture?
Um, I think ISO 31000, it's not something that you can, you know, get certified against, right? It's just a really good guidance, and it sets the tone and the framework and the process. It explains a lot what risk management is, and the principles that it introduces, that they are something that help us to see how we can really foster the risk culture. Because if we take these principles like a checklist and see, are we integrated? Are we customized? Do we use the best available information? All of that you can check you against that. That gives you a framework, a guidance to create risk culture. And it gives you also the language to talk about that in the organization.
Thank you for that answer as well. And the next one is, how do you ensure management support to risk management?
How do you ensure manage?
How do you management support to risk management?
Yes, that's a very good question, and sometimes it's really difficult, right? Um, if I have worked with many leaders in my career, and some of them were very conscious about risks and have treated that very clearly and very like something that is very important, and it's always was part of conversation. But there were leaders who treated risks like an exercise to make, like a tick box exercise, like something that they have to comply with, and they didn't really wanted to stop their shiny projects and ideas. So they have seen that as a barrier instead of as enabler. And I think you have to tailor your approach to everyone, every leader. So find a common language with this person. Use a business language that they will understand, and make them understand what risks would need for them if something happened. Um, like sometimes it's difficult because there are more or less risk aware, averse people in the leadership, but you have to understand them. You have to understand where they are coming from and what would motivate them to make more considerations about risk, and that can help listening first so that they will listen to you.
Thank you, Natalia. That was very thoughtful. The next one is, which ISO business should we follow for risk management, ISO 31000 or ISO 27001?
That is probably for me too complicated question because it have like it has to be customized, right? So every business creates their risk management, and they follow the norms and the frameworks as they see are the most helpful for them. So that's not for me to answer. There's no one a general answer for that question, I'm afraid.
Absolutely makes sense. It just depends, where you keep the certain events in certain place. So depending on that. So I'll move on with the next one. Where do you suggest to start when implementing risk management? Is there a place for AI in risk management?
Start where to start with implementing. I think if you are at the very beginning, like let's say you are a small organization, a startup, and you are just starting to scaling up, right? What you start is the culture itself, the conversation, the questions around risks, introducing the topic of risks, and this carefulness and openness for information. I think that is where you start. And then you can look at how to structure the risk management and how to integrate that in the organization as you grow. No organization will start with a risk management department, right? It only comes up later. But when an organization is small, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be talking about risk management and be aware about risks that are coming at the organization. The second part of this question, is there a place for AI in risk management? Absolutely. Don't ask me exactly how and where, but I think there's no area in our lives, and especially in professional lives, where the AI will not add value. We just have to be, it is also a risk, right? So we have to be aware about what value it can add before we talk about introducing AI, because it is not about getting AI, it is about getting the results from its application.
Thanks for that answer. The next one is, we can say the risk management can have a good place in business table when it gives a quantitative approach, not just a matrix.
Quantitative, quantitative and qualitative, I would say. Um, yes, when place at the business table first. What I understand with that is that you have, as a person speaking about risk, that you have a place at this table and that you are listened to, that you are able to raise your concerns and raise your questions and slow down the decision making and make sure that when decision is made, It is an informed decision, and it has every chance to lead to a success. So that is the place at the table. And absolutely, it is not led, this conversation, when you have this place at the table, is not led with matrix or with putting on the wall the risk register. It is led with the human curiosity, with caring for the business, and with openness to hear conversation, and also to come and to use your own gut feelings. If you think and feel that something is off, then it probably is. And there are other people at the table who probably will not share that, but they might if you enable them. So I think this is the role of risk person sitting at the decision table, enabling this conversation.
Thank you, Natalia. And how does ISO 31000 relate to other norms of ISO?
That is also a good question. That is very formal, and probably Google will better answer this question than I can. The thing that I know for sure is that ISO 31000 is not a standard that can be certified, but it is a guidance. And when I have learned to become a risk manager, we have learned a lot from this is from this risk management standard, because it introduces you, it gives you the overall feeling and the direction, and also it gives you the understanding of what it is and how it optimally should be done so that the organization is safe. And I think that's the best, the biggest value of this ISO norm, is just that it can be read as a guidance, as a place where you can take your idea to build your risk management in your organization.
Thank you. I guess we have a couple of minutes more. So if anyone is having any more questions, then you can feel free to drop them right in the chat. And also, I'm sharing Natalia's LinkedIn in the chat box once again. So you can always reach out to her over the LinkedIn and probably have conversations about any questions or any queries that you might have.
And I also have shared now the link to this free short booklet with practical tools to promote the risk culture. If you are interested, you can download that. And I will be absolutely happy to see you connecting with me on LinkedIn, reaching out for a conversation. And thank you so much for this all thoughtful question and your participation.
I guess with this, we're coming to an end for today's session. Natalia, it was a pleasure having you, and we would absolutely love to have you again and get more insights and knowledge from you. And before we call this session off, would you like to make any final statement?
I think when it comes to culture, the most important thing is this human element. With every principle, you have seen how much this human element is important, and how it can really add value and make the situation different. Obviously, the leadership is absolutely responsible for that and very important, but it is up to every one of us to foster the culture that we want to live in. So thank you very much, and I wish you all great weekend, because we are now coming into weekend, and I'm very happy about that too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for giving us once again this session. It was very much needed, I'm sure, because I saw a lot of, participants engaging already, and it was more of a conversational flow. So appreciate it. And yes, so if you would like to opt the certificate for the ISO, you can just use ISO Lead 20, and you are getting a 20% discount for being a part of this today's session. So make sure you're visiting our websites, and we will help you get started from there. And GSDC has also launched a utility tool which will help you take your career to next level. And it helps you strengthen your professional presence, validate what you know, and open doors to the global opportunities. And it's 100% free for all the participants who have joined today. All you have to do is use AUG 100. And yes, make sure you're making most of the utility tool. And next week on January 26th, we have Nina. She will be helping us, giving more insights on the topic defining risk appetite and tolerance using ISO 31000 principles. So make sure you're not missing out on the next week series, because it's going to be an exciting one as well, with a lot of different new concepts. And side by side, we will be having the learning and development series going on for the next week as well. You could be a part of that as well, along with the AI series that has been playing very important role. So if you're interested in learning more about AI, this series will definitely help you out. And now we would like to celebrate our referral champions, Astik Saxena, Bandi Hemant, and Rakesh Ranjan. And yes, you could be a part of the referral championship too and earn vouchers worth $400. All you have to do is invite your colleagues, your community to watch this series. And as you start to climb up the leaderboard, you earn the vouchers worth $400 from GSDC. If you would like to join us in any learning capsule, webinar, or podcast, you can reach out to me on gauri@gsdccouncil.org, and I'll be more than happy to get you started from there. And lastly, we would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, and you can also visit our website for more details and join our exclusive WhatsApp group that helps you keep updated about all the events that are aligned for upcoming weeks and months. And if you could kindly share your session takeaways and learning outcomes on reviews.io, we would be delighted to read them. So with this, we're coming to an end for this week's series, and I'm sharing the more details about the utility tool certification and everything that you might need in the chat box. And have a good day and good night, everyone. Thank you so much.